So as Alexa pointed out, my name's Ian Kerno. I look after sales for Amazon for end-user computing products. So that's Workspaces and AppStream. So as opposed to being focused on individual customers, I'm focused on customers who are interested in those two products. So today I'm joined by two of those customers. So we've got the great pleasure of Gavin and Mark joining me to talk about their experiences with Workspaces in particular, and we're going to run through a few questions, talking to them about their deployment of Workspaces, why they did it, and how they moved it into a production environment. So our very first question is going to be, without me introducing them, I'm going to get them to do it themselves. So Gav, why don't we start with you first?
Sure. So my name is Gavin Walker. I'm Chief Architect at New Zealand Department of Conservation. So I'll tell you a little bit about DOC.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So we manage about a third of New Zealand. So if you've got your boots muddy in New Zealand on one of the Great Walks, you've been walking on the DOC estate. We manage pretty much all of the conservation activities in New Zealand, and quite a lot of recreation and tourism as well.
Fantastic. Matt?
My name is Matthew Head. I'm one of the R&D directors for Technology One. Technology One is one of Australia's largest enterprise software companies, and we're based in Brisbane. Up in Brisbane, we've got about 300 developers, all of which use a Workspace product, which we'll take you through soon.
Fantastic, guys. And as I said, welcome to the stage, and thanks for joining us today. So why don't we click in to our first real question, which is, what was your original use case for using Workspaces? Gav, do you want to start?
Sure. So we moved to, I've just been reminded by our project manager actually, we moved to Amazon and finished the project about a year ago. One of the things that we did when we moved was we were aware that some of our users had quite high performance needs, particularly geospatial users. So we were concerned that, in moving all of our data offshore, they've got big powerful machines onshore, and that mix didn't really work. And we were looking at Workspaces to basically alleviate some of those problems. So, put the data and the compute next to each other, and let the geospatial users use Workspaces. So that was our initial use case for them.
And that was involved in your migration to Amazon as well, wasn't it?
It was
as part of that process.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Matt, do you want to tell us about why you guys looked at Workspaces initially?
So we use Workspaces for our developers. It's their primary development workstation. We saw an opportunity recently, earlier this year, in which we could improve our developers' performance, their experience, and also the control they had over the machines they were using. So Workspaces became very attractive for two reasons, primarily commercial, but secondary for experience for the developers.
Yeah, fantastic. And Gav, I suppose as a follow-on from that, so did the use cases evolve over time? So did you find the initial use case was probably the first part of the journey, or was that it and it stayed pretty static?
No, it's definitely evolved over time. I think I saw a slide earlier earlier today, and it was about the vision that you had and the adjusting thing as you go, and we definitely adjusted as we went through the project. And other use cases came out as we went along. So we originally started with perhaps maybe 30 or 40 workspaces in mind. We discovered, personas tell you a lot about your users, but it's only, we have 2,500 people. You can't know in detail what each one of them does. So as we found cases that made sense, we moved those users to workspaces as well. So we're up to about 800 now across DOC, and it's still growing.
Do you feel like you know more about your user base now than you did previously?
Yeah. I mean, there's this kind of thing in DOC where there's quite a lot of rangers. So we have 1,500 rangers. Rangers vary from people that are doing track maintenance work and painting huts to PhD, people who are doing marine biology research, that kind of thing. So there's a really big spectrum of different user types. So yeah, doing this project has taught us an awful lot about more of the detail.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Matt? Was there much change in the original reason you picked it up to where you are now?
Not at this stage. It's still relatively early in our journey with Workspaces. We went into production with this product in around May of this year. So I expect the use cases will evolve and change over time. But as I said, it's rather early right now. So it's still primarily a development station and some supporting processes around the actual DevOps lifecycle.
Yeah, given you guys are a software company, like it's a core part of your business, like
Absolutely.
A really strong use case.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is interesting to contrast against more of an enterprise IT use case requirement, which I think is really interesting that we got customers who see different, either very strong individual use cases for a core set of users, right through to like an enterprise IT, a myriad of use cases that sort of culminate in a requirement for a platform, which is fantastic. And I'm going to read off this. How did the Workspaces project align with the rest of your AWS journey? And where did it happen in the process? So let me explain the question a little bit. So we see customers, both as a greenfield customer, not using any Amazon services, who see VDI as quite a heavy piece of infrastructure to support and maintain and purchase, wanting to look to the cloud to be able to start offering that kind of, or start using that kind of service. They see it as a good service to get going in the cloud. Conversely, we see customers who are very mature on Amazon, who pick it up sort of almost like a sweeper thing, so one of the last things they do. I'd be interested to hear from you guys. Whereabouts in that process it fit, and would you have brought it forward or moved it back? How do you think it was introduced at the right time?
We started with looking at Amazon several years ago now, and we've done quite a lot of proof of concept work, including on things like geospatial. So we'd always sort of planned to use Workspaces, particularly for geospatial, but so it was built into that migration project. But in terms of what's happened along that way, we've had earthquakes, and we've in New Zealand we get those. Things like that. There's been different things that have come out that have sort of influenced who got a workspace and who we were looking at as a user.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Matt?
So Technology One and AWS share a long-standing relationship.
Yeah.
AWS is the backbone of our SaaS offering, and so I think that Workspaces was a product of that. I think it was a natural evolution that was going to happen. The relationship we shared made it very easy for us to roll the product out. It gave us access to people like Phil up in the crowd there. Very important.
Give us a wave, Phil.
So, look, it aligned very well with our whole AWS journey. Very, very well.
Yeah, and are you guys, and probably to both of you, are you seeing more of a pickup of native services? This being, there are ways to deliver this service in a bunch of different ways. Is this as much to do with an alignment of native services and consumption of native services as you guys mature on the path, or is it more just it was just one of the choices and a good choice to choose?
I mean, for us, quite a desktop fleet. Quite a lot of old machines in our desktop fleet. So, we were using Workspaces, and then there's a decision point about whether you carry on with that sort of thick client model. We've actually shifted quite extensively to thin client with Workspace. So most of our national office, which is about 500 people, are on a thin client now. That was definitely not part of our plan. No, but that's been really well received, actually.
Yeah, fantastic.
Changed the way people think about IT a little bit as well. And flexible working and working, moving around in desks, moving to different meeting rooms, working at home. It's enabled a lot of things that were definitely not on the list at the beginning of this.
Yeah. And quite often things that don't necessarily get associated with infrastructure projects and the like as well. Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Matt?
As I said before, there were a few events that actually brought about the migration to Workspaces. There were commercial drivers, there were time drivers, things like that. And I think that the product itself was what drew us to it as a final solution. So I think in that respect it was it attracted us to it just by the nature of the product.
Yeah, I think you mentioned yesterday, like it's a good a tool of trade. Like you guys sort of saw it as something that gives it's a good tool of trade for the developers working on Amazon, which I thought is a really nice kind of terminology. Like it fits in the toolkit of use, which is
exactly
great.
Yeah, it fell out of the family, so it was very good in that respect.
Yeah, fantastic. So question 5. So what has Workspaces enabled you to do that you weren't otherwise able to do? And we kind of covered this a little bit there, but I'd love to hear how you guys, especially some of the stuff you're doing with Samsung and the device choice.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we're looking at right now. So we got thin clients rolled out. They're working very well, but we've been working with Samsung and looking at DeX as a product. So you can dock your Android phone, get a full screen Android experience, and then connect to a workspace through that. So that's definitely a model we'll be looking at. Because we've got a very mobile workforce. Most of our rangers are out in the field a lot of the time. So their primary computing device is a cell phone.
Yeah.
So if you can walk back in the office on a rainy day and dock your device, then that's a big win. Just, don't have any hardware hanging around, just have a dock.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Like the modernisation of your workforce is like, once again, giving them the right tool that's appropriate for their job is great, right? Like a really good win for IT too.
Yeah, and obviously, upstream's next. Perhaps.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Matt, so is it enable you guys to do anything that you weren't able to do before?
Absolutely. We were sharing servers before, so by moving each developer to their own workstation, or workspace, sorry, they've gained a lot more control back. Previously, where they were on similar machines, so they shared similar config. If they ran process-intensive tasks, they were drawing from a common resource pool. All of that has been changed now to put all of the control back into the developer on their own machine. And they're greatly enjoying that flexibility. It's been a great outcome for them.
Yeah, it's a really common use case for us with developers. And once again, the last thing you want to be doing, especially as a software company, is inhibiting innovation with developers,
Absolutely.
right? So allowing to be able to do that is fantastic.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, I just want to make sure that my questions, yep, fantastic. They're still aligned. I'm clicking in the right places. What learnings would you share with someone who is considering using end-user computing products, so Workspaces or AppStream from AWS? So there's quite a few people in the crowd, so I'm sure a few of them are either starting to or potentially looking at a solution like this. Gav, you guys have been doing this stuff for about a year. What sort of advice would you give to?
I think we're going to get different advice, aren't we? We evolved, so we
Yeah.
started off with a small number of people, and actually my own team were probably the first team that took it up, and then we moved it out into the rest of our IT group, and then into the business, and learned through that.
Do you think that was the right way to do it?
I think it's an important way to do it for us, to prove that we were walking that talk for people, and actually work out some of those wrinkles that we found along the way.
Yep.
So I saw a couple of things earlier in the day about, you learn about your users as you adopt Amazon, and alongside that you also improve your security posture.
Yep.
And that's another thing that's definitely something we've done along the way.
Yeah. We talk a lot about feedback loops with customers, so getting good feedback loops on, is this working well? Is it what it's, doing what it's supposed to do? I think projects like you guys are running through is great for building feedback loops with customers, and it's important to do. And trying to do that at scale from day one is really, really hard. Like learning in a small way and then growing is a really good way of doing that, right? Getting control.
Yeah.
And
I
learning
think
what you don't know.
for me the best anecdote is our geospatial team, who were definitely doubtful about whether this stuff would work. And I went to the Esri conference in Auckland last week, and they're presenting on how well it worked. So that
It's good.
that's worked.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
So, different to Gav, we had more of a big bang.
Yeah.
I think within 4 weeks we had stood up around 300 machines, a fleet of 300 workspaces. The learnings that I could share from that are fairly obvious. It's understand your use case very, very well, understand what the users require, and make sure the product fits. Make sure you have the support behind you. Again, Phil, make sure you can get these questions answered quickly. Understand that the automation that's available is very powerful. We were standing up 60 to 80 instances in a few hours and handing them off to our developers. So the biggest learnings, though, are understand the use case, because I did get caught out a few times where I had to quickly maneuver and change the sort of instance that I had to roll out.
Yeah, I love the call out for automation as well. Like where we see people go from tiny to very large. Like it's very hard to do, whether it's traditional on-prem VDI or cloud-based VDI. To do it without automation it's difficult.
And it goes further than just the rollout. The automation will then service the actual day-to-day running of the machines.
Yep.
So the support service is required.
Yeah.
Reboot a machine, stand a new instance up, things like that. So the automation goes all the way from rollout of the fleet to support of the fleet thereafter.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So next question. So was there a conscious decision to move from pilot to production, or did it organically grow into it? And I suppose to preface this question, so we see a lot of people who do. They literally add 1 or 2 workspaces at a time, and it almost looks incidentally moving to production. I'd be interested for both you guys to talk a little bit about, what was the tipping point, and how did you think about that change to becoming a production environment?
I mean, it's definitely planned into our project. So, we went through quite a formal process for effectively adopting workspaces. So went through quite a lot of testing with them. So yeah, it's probably a different to just start and see where you end up. It was built into the project.
Yeah. Did you move through POC into pilot into production?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And was there much change between your pilot and production? Was there much manoeuvring and changing?
Probably not on the actual workspaces themselves, but certainly on what people were doing with them. So probably the thing that was the biggest thing to do was to move all of our geospatial data. And then there's a lot of consolidation work went into that as well, to make it ready for people to use.
Yeah.
So rather than just, if you've got a local machine and you've got all of your data sat on a local machine, it's very easy. Moving it into a Workspaces environment, that needs some thought, and consolidation of data and deduplication of data was probably the biggest thing we had to do.
Did the data move before the workspace, or around the same time?
Bit of both.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
So we ran a pilot. We ran a pilot across a few different development teams, a few different product teams using different technologies. That pilot ran for a couple of weeks where we gathered a lot of data back. While that pilot was occurring from a technical point of view, I was ensuring all the commercials would stack up. And there was definitely a tipping point for me as far as making a decision that this was something that we could go further and take into production. That tipping point was one of my very trusted architects coming to me and saying to me, quote, Matt, if you make me go back to the old system, I'll pay for my own workspace. At that point, I kind of realised that...
Did you take him up on the offer?
I should have.
Yeah. Dock his pay.
I actually should have, but I did not. But look, that cemented the actual experience point of view in my mind. When the commercials came back being a positive move, from that point the decision was made.
Yeah, and that's a feedback loop thing, right? Like there's anecdotal evidence, there's metrics that drive it as well, but a lot of with end user computing, a lot of it's anecdotal. Like you can't. It's difficult to capture the change from moving to from a physical desktop to a virtual desktop until you hear stories like that. It's they're real proof points you can work off. I think I might have, so we actually duplicated a question, so I'm going to skip over that one and skip to the last question. So in moving to production, what mechanisms did you put in place to make sure the service was considered a first-class citizen? So was there, and this is not just technology focused, but what things did you do to go, this is a platform that we potentially want to use enterprise-wide? How did you view that, and what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose over time, as we've rolled it out, we move offices reasonably often. We've got quite a distributed workforce, and there's about 60 or 70 offices. So we're regularly refitting offices, and that's where we actually migrate people now. So there's quite a streamlined processes developed now to shift people over and tell them about the benefits and show them what it can do, and shift them off their older machines onto Workspaces. And so it's definitely our future and the way we're moving.
And you guys use, you'll literally have people there on site as you do a shift over to a new site, right? Which is once again something when we talk to customers who are looking at doing rollouts in a similar way, they think about them from like an office move or a geographic, something to do with geography. Go there, be there and be with the people and help them through it. Because while we all work in IT and change in IT is something we kind of expect and know. For a lot of these people, this is a big change for them. And so helping them through that process will help you down the road.
It's kind of a mantra for my team, DOC is not National Office. National Office is a different thing to the rest of DOC. So understanding that how the rest of DOC works is a big deal for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We find all sorts of interesting things, like 25-year-old water quality meters that need to keep working and things like that. And you don't know until you actually go there and look. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in both a good and an interesting way, a bit of a learning experience for you guys,
absolutely.
I'm sure.
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah. I think you said the other day USB 0.8, was it? You reckon that was a version of...
I think we've even got serial port devices out there.
Yeah, right. There you go. How about you, Matt? What changes did you guys make?
To ensure it was a first-class citizen?
Yeah.
Look, we made that quite easy by switching off the old systems, to be honest. But look, obviously it wasn't that simple. There was a change management plan in place. We had to set up developer support to ensure that they understood how to operate the systems, where to get help if they had questions. We set up bootstrapping scripts that would create a standard operating environment for them. We as I said before, ensured that the API was there to deliver the automation required.
Were they involved in the automation as well?
The developers?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we set up a little forum where they could work on the startup scripts so that they could, as I said, build an SOE right from the word go.
Yep.
They all contributed to that, or a select few. And by default, it became the first-class citizen. Yeah.
Did you guys have see product champions come out as well, like technical champions come out as well? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Advocates?
Yep, absolutely. You know, we had a few younger developers that really did champion the cause. From a technical perspective, I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah.
And once again, they were always tapping on your door to make sure they get the support they required.
Yeah, and which is a great point, right? Like we're here to help. So Phil is one of our lead solutions architects for Workspaces and AppStream. So that is all he thinks about all day long. And his charter is to work with customers who are going through these processes. Yep. So and has obviously great experience that he can share from other customers to help people get through that process pretty quickly. So he's a free service to use. I can say that, can't I, Phil? That's not cheapening you or anything, I don't think. How we doing for time? Hey, so that was all the questions I had. I'll throw it open to you guys. Is there anything else, any final things you'd like to say, things you'd like to share with the people here about your experiences?
I'm looking to the future of what Workspaces will deliver. As we move to more open source models, I think that from the product vision that's been shared with me, I think that Workspaces will continue to walk forward on that path with us. So I think that's going to be interesting. So I look forward to that, absolutely. Yeah.
Gav, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys do with AppStream? I think it'd be really interesting if you could talk about where that use case is going, what you guys are thinking about, how that's going to work with Workspaces. I think it'd be great to talk through that as well.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about something like Android or Google Chrome as a first-class device, and it's a standard device for people, then it really changes the way you think about things like AppStream and about heavy lift applications like geospatial. If you can stream those out, just that application out, you can put a device in somebody's pocket that can do all of that 3D modeling stuff in Amazon, but let them walk around the rest of the week and have it as a regular device. So, that for us is could be a big win for us. We're trialing it, we're proof of concepting it now.
Yeah, So for those who don't know, so AppStream is streaming of individual applications. So we still have a streaming protocol sitting there doing it, but it streams individual applications. There's 16 instance types you can tie to streaming those applications. So they can be very heavy-duty graphics applications right down to like business applications like SAP and the like. And it's all delivered via a HTML5 browser. So all of a sudden the endpoints of the thing that you're trying to deliver this stuff to can be almost anything, be it a mobile phone, a Chromebook, a PC sitting in someone's house. It's still got a good security layer wrapped around it where we're not leaving any data on the endpoint. So it's a really interesting thing, and in particular, geospatial is being picked up. Data scientists are looking at it as well as a way to deliver. I love the idea of being able to do it to a mobile phone, right? Like that's sort of the ultimate thing. Being able to get rid of desktops and just deliver applications down is fantastic.
I think the other thing that we've picked up on is, we've got the majority of people, and we think we understand the majority. It's the kind of specialist users now that are coming out. So people like our scientists who have been used to using big, powerful machines to do things like tiling of imagery to look for pine trees in the landscape and odd things that Doc does. Yeah. That we're now engaging with them and talking about other Amazon services. So that's the big shift for my team, which is you need to understand a lot more about how Amazon works, as well as rolling out Workspaces.
Yeah.
Because there's an awful lot of stuff you can do.
And do you guys see that as a gateway into the other Amazon services? Yeah, that's fantastic. Once again, it's a really common thing that we see that Workspaces and AppStream becomes a front door to Amazon for a lot of the end users, especially people who might be able to, just as part of their job, they may not be core IT people, but would be able to benefit from using some of the services we offer as well.
Yeah, it's just interesting to try to get them to talk about the outcome thereafter. So,
yeah, right.
I want to run this piece of software on my desktop. Okay, yeah. I want to run it on my workspace. Let's talk more about the actual outcome you're looking for. It's about tiling imagery, and we've got options for that. So.
Yeah. It's great that you guys can be leading that conversation with them as well, though, isn't it? Like, it's great that you can be at the forefront and showing them innovation in their own area. It's fantastic. Great. So thanks, guys. Thanks for spending the time with us today. Hopefully everyone found it really useful and informative. We're going to be hanging around for a couple of minutes afterwards as well if you want to ask the guys any questions. Phil is also going to be here, so please hit him up for questions and myself as well. Thanks for the time. There's the survey on the back of your on your lanyard if you'd like to fill in the survey on this session as well. Give us a bit of feedback on the relevance for you guys and what you thought of it as a format. But otherwise, thanks for the time, everybody, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.